I'm delighted to be involved in the Hebron Horizons interview programme with alumni, and my name is Alastair Reid. I was on staff at Hebron from 2000 to 2009, and I was the principal here for 7 years of that time. But joining me today is Lord Karan Bilimoria, who is class of 1978, and Jehan Sethna, who is class of 2015.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us. And I thought we'd just start by getting a little bit of background, if we may. Jehan, how is it that you came to be at Hebron? I know you're from the Nilgiris, so you've probably had other schools to choose from, or your parents did. So what brought you here?
Yeah, indeed. Well, first, thank you for having me. We're born and brought up over here, so we've always knew Hebron, and my father was an alumnus of another school, so we were sent there initially. Right. But my parents were keen on finding a school which worked for me and which they thought would suit me best. And that's how I came to Hebron.
Brilliant. Yeah. And what about you, Karan? Because you're a slightly different era, I know, but how was it you came here? Because I think you were, 13 when you came here?
Yes.
Yes.
13, 14.
Yes.
And I was actually meant to go to the Doon School, which is where my family went on my father's side and my mother's side as well. They all went to the Doon School, and actually did my entrance and got my place. Right. My father was posted abroad to England.
Yes.
So we went there, my brother and I. Right. And when we came back, India was going through a change in its education system. Okay. Right. From an 11+1 to go to university to a 10+2.
Ah, okay.
And so I got caught up in the middle of that. And the Doon School said, look, it's not going to work.
Right.
It'll be too late. And so the headmaster of the Doon School recommended Hebron. And that's how I ended up at Hebron. And, you know, my whole life would have been different had I gone to the Doon School.
Right.
And thankfully I came here instead.
And you were here through to O-levels, is that
right? Through to O-levels, and while I was here, the school started A-levels. So we had the first batch of A-level students, I think there were 4 of them.
Yes,
for my final year, and then from my year group, some stayed on to do A-levels as well. Cool. But before that, the school didn't do A-levels.
Didn't do. And Jehan, you were here right the way through to A-levels?
I did. I finished my A-levels here. Did my A-levels. We sat in what was the sports hall. So whenever you get to this time of year, it's always a thing of study holidays, revision, and getting back there.
Okay. So walking into the sports hall later, there was a few nerves might come creeping back.
The walkway down the steps, you used to queue, and I knew my place because you queued via surname. So I always know my place. That was where I stood.
Talking about knowing your place, I think you were the editor of Zenith magazine.
I was.
Is that right? And do you know the origin of Zenith magazine? I think I have a little reminder here, because some of the students here don't know. Do you want to just explain what's the origin?
So Zenith is our school magazine.
Yes.
And it wasn't until I become magazine editor that Mr. Barclay, the principal, one day called me into his office and he went, "You're editor of Zenith," and handed me a box of toilet paper. And I went, "Oh my God." Yes. So that's something which made me work even harder. I went, okay, we have to make this magazine a success.
And we have to explain to anybody watching this that this is quite hard toilet paper, in spite of what it says on the packet about being soft. And hence people just felt they could write on it and so on.
We even used the same logo for the longest time. We weren't allowed to change it. Yeah.
Now, Karan, I think you were on the hockey field at one time. I have a little excerpt here from the Hebron highlights of the period, and there's a description here. This is dated senior hockey 1977, and there's a description about the match, and then it says, "Karan Bilimoria, with his fancy stick work, bewildering our opponent's defence, slightly less than his multitude of admirers on the sidelines." So, I'm sure you don't want to go further with that, but hockey, was that one of your things?
I was very lucky with Hebron that you get such a wonderful all-rounded experience. So of course the studies are important, and we were very lucky. I've been fortunate later on to study at some of the finest institutions in the world, at Cambridge, at Harvard.
Yes,
But I still say some of my best teachers,
Wow.
without exaggeration, were the teachers I had here at Hebron.
Wow. Wow.
And so we had great quality teaching,
Sure.
but we also had fabulous sports. And we
Yes.
don't exactly have great sports facilities.
No,
We've got one
sure.
big pitch and a little pitch and a titch pitch. I mean, compared with the playing fields of Eton, there is not much here, but yet we made the most of it.
Yeah.
And I remember there was a tennis tournament when I came,
Right.
and because I used to play a lot of tennis, and soon after I came to school, the deputy headmaster, Brian Wood, who was what an
Brian.
inspiration he was.
Yes,
He was a
yes,
great
yes.
rugby player for New
Yes.
Zealand this time,
Yes.
and he arranged a tennis tournament
Ah.
to help me settle into school, which was wonderful.
fantastic,
So I played everything: tennis,
Yeah.
table tennis, badminton, hockey, volleyball. The only sport I was
Yes.
not good at all
Yes.
was football.
Okay.
But wait for this, the headmaster, Mr. Ingleby,
Yes.
was a great footballer.
Yes,
He played for
yes.
Oxford,
Yeah, yeah.
and he was an Oxford Blue.
Yes.
He loved football.
Yes.
So he said, you can't get away with this, you'll be the referee.
Excellent. You mentioned Brian Wood, of course.
Oh, what a great man.
Yes, sadly passed away, and I don't think his body was ever found, but on a climbing expedition and so on up in the north. But the Seize the Day book is very powerful.
He is one of the
Yeah.
greatest influences to
Yeah,
me, always.
Yeah. Just sticking with you for a moment. There's a little bit here also about the levers at the time, and I'm not quite sure why the quotation is being used of you. And maybe it's to do with debating. I don't know. It says Karan Bilimoria, nickname Billy.
Yes.
Suku.
That's sort of a secondary nickname.
Okay. Anyway, there's a quotation under your name. It says, "One in whom the ancient Roman honour more appears than any that draws breath in Italy." Now, is this reference to debating and so on, perhaps? I don't know.
Well, Billy is a nickname that all my father was called Billy, my grandfather was called
Right.
Billy, my brother was called Billy, my brother was at Lovedale,
Right.
Lawrence
Yes,
Lovedale.
yes.
And because short for Bilimoria.
Ah, yes, of course.
And
Yes.
the debating, now that's another thing. It was, I think, Mr. Ingleby who said, we don't have debating. We
Yeah,
should have
yeah,
debating.
yes.
And so we used to have debates up in the dining hall.
Yes.
And the whole school would attend.
Ah,
And they were great fun.
yes.
And then I ended up representing the school in the inter-school debating competitions.
Yeah.
So I started debating at the age
Yeah.
of 14 here.
Yeah.
And now look, I'm in the House of Lords. So the debating started here.
And you were into public speaking and
was.
debating as well.
Yeah.
And I think also you've probably got your eye on what I'm carrying here. It's got your name on this trophy. This is
Oh my gosh.
Thomas and Valsa George, who were on staff for a long time.
Yes.
And this is what do you want to explain? What's the trophy was for?
Well, I think this award was for drama performance,
yes.
and debating.
Yes.
So I could always talk, and my mouth got me into a lot of trouble.
Okay.
And foolishly, I think I was in primary school,
Yes.
and the headmistress told my parents, this boy can only talk, and he better find a profession which pays him to speak. So I pursued the law, thinking, wow, something's going to pay me.
Right.
Okay. But how wrong I was, because you realise you should be keeping quiet a lot of the time. But yes, debating was something I was fortunate to do, and we did the district competition here and then the inter-school, which was really an experience. And what was lovely was Hebron if you won, Hebron never let you do it the next year as well. You had to train the next team,
right?
Which really stood out.
Yes.
And we'd spend Saturday mornings by the swimming pool or by the art logs down there, where you'd be either being coached or coaching the next team, which ensured there was that continuity, but also you learned from one another, which that peer learning is so important, and something which was very special.
It sounded like a few moments ago you said your mouth sometimes got you into trouble. I was going to ask you, and it may not be that, but do you have a special memory or a special moment, an anecdote that you think would be of interest?
Oh gosh, none.
Because Karen's laughing now, so we'll come to you in a moment. Jehan,
oh gosh, none which I should. Okay, but this happened at another school.
Okay.
I got into an argument with the headmaster because he refused to let us go for music lessons.
Okay.
because he said that we'd finished our exams,
Right.
so there was no point in going for music lessons.
Sure.
So I said, then please come with me now. We will
Yes.
go to every student after year 2
Yes.
and say, you finished your year 1 exams and you can all leave school. You can imagine that didn't make me very popular, but it got me into music lessons again.
Excellent. And what about you, Karan? Did you have a particular memory and anecdote that you think would be of interest?
I used to get into trouble from time to time. And I remember the physics corridor upstairs.
Right,
I
yes.
spent a lot of time on that corridor
Okay.
when I was thrown out of class.
Okay.
But once I remember we had this fabulous history teacher, Miss Bateman.
Okay. Yes.
And she was brilliant. I mean,
Right.
an absolutely amazing teacher. And I remember she had a room on just with a steep bank just
Yes,
up there.
Yes.
And once I can't remember what I did, but she gave me 1,000 lines. I had to write them sitting on that bank outside her room. So that wasn't a pleasant experience. But on a serious note,
Yes.
I remember I once started going off the rails, and I was about to go off on holiday, and my housemaster, Mr. Wallace,
Yes.
called
yes.
me into the quadrangle at the back in Inters.
Yes. Yes.
And he said, look, you know, you've got such a promising future ahead of you, and I can see you've gone off the rails. What's wrong? I mean,
Sure.
don't throw your life away.
Yeah.
And he gave me a really serious talk. And that literally shook me.
Sure.
And I went away and reflected on it.
Right.
I then became a prefect,
Right.
and
okay.
and my whole life changed.
Right.
And if he hadn't had that talk with me, I wonder
Yes.
what would have happened.
Right. And that really brings me to ask, well, both of you, but perhaps first of all, Karan, the values that you feel that Hebron was teaching you then, and I hope are still teaching today. But what would you say particularly were the values of the school that have remained with you?
We have this wonderful Thanksgiving service
Yes.
yesterday.
Yes.
And during the service, we sang the school anthem. Now, most school songs, school anthems, school mottos, are platitudes.
You're right.
And
right.
they don't really live those
Yes.
words.
Yes.
I think in our case, we genuinely live those words.
Deo Supremo is the
And everything in the anthem,
yes,
which is
yes.
about a family
Yes.
atmosphere, about caring, about empathy, about service.
Yes.
And that's what we learned over here, which I think is so amazing. And a quick story, when I came here a few years ago, and I was giving a lecture at the staff college,
Yes.
which my father was commandant of
Yes.
years ago.
Yes.
Commandant invited me, and I had a colonel accompanying me everywhere.
Yes. Yes.
Colonel accompanied me to Hebron,
Yes.
to Lawrence, where I gave a talk,
Yes.
and to Good Shepherd, where I gave a talk. And at the end of it all, he said, sir, I want to tell you something. If I had to send my children to any of those three schools, I'd send them to Hebron.
Right.
And I said, why?
Yeah.
He said, because it has the warmest feeling and a family atmosphere.
Sure.
So that's what's special about
That's
this
special.
place.
And I guess you would resonate with that.
I
Jehan?
do.
Yeah.
It's the values, and as Karan mentioned, I mean, there are no great exceptional facilities or anything. We've got wonderful facilities, but I think what makes Hebron special is the values it instills.
Right.
And there's, I remember it was a Saturday morning when we had our leadership training,
Yes.
when we as new prefects were coming in.
Yes.
And it was up at the Barclays at the time, and you had a whole day of leadership activity.
Yes.
And then as the day got dark, and we were all sitting on this veranda, and Mrs. Tattersall said, "You're all prefects, but the role of a prefect is to serve and not be served."
Okay.
That line will
Yes.
always stay with me,
Yes.
because you have these ideas that when you get to positions of power, you become entitled.
Yes.
You
yes.
expect things, but this really puts things into perspective,
Sure.
and it's something I will always remember. That whenever you try to think you're a bit too big for your boots, if you
Okay.
just go back to service,
Right. Okay.
you can't go wrong.
And you've gone on and obviously studied, and now you're in the law.
Yes.
And can you see any particular links that you feel actually maybe my ideas were being formed, or my expression here at school that's helped to shape where you've ended up?
100%.
Really?
I think one is when you meet a variety of people.
Yes.
I mean, a lot of your clients can be from a diverse range of backgrounds,
Yes.
but you've had that at school. You've lived
right.
with people
Yes.
from,
Yes.
I think it was 18 different countries,
Yes.
maybe 20, I'm
Yes.
not sure of the
Yes.
exact number.
Yes.
And again, it's going back to how can I help? How can I
Yes.
be of
Yes.
use? How can I be of service?
Yes.
And at least to me, I think if you do that, you can't go wrong in your career, in your
Yeah.
personal life, your professional life.
Sure. And was there anything in being a boarder here that maybe helped shape that sort of getting along with other people?
I was actually a day student.
Okay.
Yeah.
But did you
I was
board
a day
at all?
student. I was sent off to boarding school at 9.
Yes.
So I did see the difference.
Yes. Yes.
But it was just such a nurturing
Yeah.
and wholesome experience.
And you would have joined dorm activities.
Exactly. And when my parents went
Yes.
traveling, I used to come and
Yes.
stay with the dorm.
Yes.
And the fact that you had dorm parents,
Yes,
and
yeah.
Karan a few moments ago was talking about how when he joined, they organised a tennis tournament
Yes.
to make him feel welcome.
Yes.
That was the kind of thing which, the staff
Yeah.
are so exceptional.
Yes.
They remember those little things,
Yes.
to make, if it was you were having a bad day,
Sure. Sure.
or
Yeah.
it was a tiring day, we used to have someone who would walk around with cinnamon rolls. And if they saw anyone looking a little down on these logs or down,
Yes.
she'd go and give you a cinnamon roll and say, it's going to be okay.
I think you said to me earlier you went to the principal's office and principal secretary might keep you a sweet that was there.
Always. I was in and out of Mr. Barclay's office when I was a prefect, and there was always something you wanted to talk to him about or he wanted to talk to me about. And the principal secretaries used to just go, go in, we've got your sweets for you later.
And Karan, you mentioned Oxford, Cambridge, Harvard, I think Cranfield as well, and you've been Chancellor of universities and so on, and yet here you are sitting here today, which is wonderful. Thank you again. But what do you think helped shape some of what you've gone on to do? I mean, and tell us a little bit about what you're doing now.
Yes, in many ways, it all started here.
Right.
I went to 7 different schools.
Wow.
And including some of India's top schools,
Yes.
like the Hyderabad Public School,
Sure.
which celebrated the centenary
Yes.
last year. And you learn something from each
Yes.
school. But this was it.
Yes.
This
Yeah.
was what set me up,
Right. Okay.
without exaggeration. And I had a very happy time here.
Okay.
And looking back on it, overall, it was an extremely happy time. I just remember all the camps we went on,
Yes.
the environment that we're in, that we were able to go
Yes.
to Lamb's Rock, and
Yes.
we were able to go down to Bhavani Sagar and to Masnagudi,
Yes,
and
yes.
to the sea, going down
Mandapam
to Bison House in Mandapam, and this
yeah.
coral reef.
Yeah.
I mean, it was magical what we experienced, and we did that all together.
Yes.
And those, my classmates, are friends of mine for life.
Yes. Yes.
We are in touch with each other every single day, without exaggeration. Our WhatsApp group, literally every day. And so that foundation,
Yes.
and then from there to go on and do a law degree and qualify as a chartered accountant, start my own business, create a household name in the UK, and then go on to politics and being in the House of Lords for 18 years, being a university chancellor twice. It all started here.
And I think still one of the younger members of the House of Lords
Yes,
today.
yes.
Yes. And one of the youngest Vice Chancellors.
I was the youngest university chancellor when I was Chancellor of University of West London for 5 years.
Okay.
And I'm the first Indian-born Chancellor for Russell Group University in Great Britain, Birmingham University, which I'm very proud of.
Yeah. And you kindly came back when my time as principal and rededicated the slightly enlarged and developed Assembly Hall, which was a great moment. So we're
That was very special.
Yes.
And you did such a wonderful job as principal. I know that from your students, like Kainan Shunai, the Olympian.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, so just as we come to a conclusion, reflecting back, and we've shared quite a lot, is there a regret perhaps, and also something that stands out more than anything? So maybe one, if we could say one positive, one not so much negative, but you would love to have done if you'd had the opportunity? Can I start with you?
Yeah, regret would be it finished too soon. I wish it went on.
Okay.
But a positive was you could always make things fun.
Okay.
Hebron was a very happy time for me, and we used to sometimes go to places where they weren't conducive, they were quite harsh, but you always had fun.
Yes.
And I think that's something I like to take with me wherever you are, because it just makes it for yourself, but for people around you, just that little bit better.
Okay, thank you. Karan?
I just cannot express enough what a great time I had here.
Okay.
It genuinely was a wonderful, wonderful time. And the regrets, I suppose, I mean, the food was terrible. I mean, it was just,
you were talking to the students.
It was so bad. It was just not fair. You know, it was inhuman. So, anyway, that was bad, and I hated the cross country. I loved all the
Can I just say the food much better? It's brilliant now.
Much better now.
But yes, go on. Cross country.
The cross country. I loved all the sport. I played for the school in almost every sport, cricket, everything. But cross country running, I hated it. And we had to do it. The whole school had to do the cross country run, which is a good thing. And you know, the opportunities were given. History is a subject I had to give up because the Indian government, I had to get permission from the Indian government to do my O-levels, and I was restricted to 8.
Wow.
And I gave up history. And I remember Mr. Ingleby was one of my history teachers. And he was furious. He phoned my parents. I said, "You cannot let him give up history. He's really good at it." And I loved it. And I wish I would have been able to continue studying history, which I think was your subject.
It was, and in fact, the last several principals, at least, we go back. Many of them were historians. But can I thank you very warmly for well, not only being interviewed, but actually, I know you come all the way from the UK, both of you, busy lives, and it's just great that you've come back for the 125th celebrations. And as we conclude this particular series of interviews, can I just repeat something that certainly many in the school now know, which is once a Hebronite, always a Hebronite. And I think we've had that reflected today in what we've heard from Karan and Jehan. So thank you very much.